Hey guys, thanks for checking out this clip of Anatomy of the Church and State. Be sure to catch the full episode on Rumble or ChristiansForLiberty.com. Links are in the show description.
But so you had mentioned traditions being different in the Orthodox and Catholic. Tell us the importance of tradition going hand in hand with the Bible.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, like you and I talked about the other day when we were on the phone, kind of setting this interview up. I think that while the Bible is very important because it's important to have something that we can refer back to that has some very again, back to like orthodoxy, back to something that doesn't move, that doesn't change. Notwithstanding some, translations and things like that kings or other people may have, may have had some influence on. I would tend to think that, King James was like, don't change anything in there that might make me look worse. But if you want to tinker around and tweak some stuff that might make me look a little better, that would be fine. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just saying, like, human beings, human nature is such that, there can be some change, but I think by and large, if you look back, and that's why it would be really cool if there's one thing I would never ask the AI to do this, but it'd be really cool for me to just download. I know Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Done. All right, cool. Now I can read the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I can read all this stuff, the original documents, without anybody else's interpretations and translations in between. Because there's a lot of stuff that I think gets lost. We know this just if you go back and read something that's 50 years old. Mm-hmm. There's some language and there's some references that we won't get. You listen to a rap song, and if you don't know what the references are, you may completely miss a lyric that is really, really, really hits hard because you don't get the reference that they're making. They're referencing a TV show that you never watched or something like that. So think about that and go now take that to 2,000 years ago. And when they talk about certain animals or certain storms or, different conditions that they were under, those things had profound impacts that we can't even understand because we have, air conditioning, heating, all this, we have double paned windows. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things that mean something different to an ancient culture versus now. But the Bible is that very steady pillar that we can return to, that can kind of anchor us when it needs to. But I think that tradition, and that's why it's important, at least for me, it was important for me to go back to as far back as that tradition started, and to be, it had a kind of a gravitational pull for me, because I'm very easily reminded that the early Christians, it took, well over 100 years before the first Bible was in anybody's hands.
Right. So how did they practice, right?
So how did they practice Christianity? How did church happen? How did they practice their faith? It's not enough, I don't think, imagine like it's the year 50 AD, Christ has been risen for 17 years now. So 17 years is a long time. Did you just, all right, Christ is risen. And then Pentecost, he's gone. Like the ascension, he's out of here, thank God we got the Holy Spirit to come down, and all right, that's cool. But now what do we do?
Right.
You just go about your day and there's no Christ to go talk to, there's no, all this. I try to put myself in that place. And so I go back to, well, no, what they would have done is they would have recounted the stories that were told. They would have recounted some or reenacted or whatever you want to call it. They would have kept the things that he told them to keep. You know, when he says, do this in memory of me, that wasn't just like, hey, you know, if you're ever sitting down and you have a piece of bread in your hand, you know, just think about me. If you think about it, you know, when you're eating it. No, this was like these things were very sacred rituals that the early Christians did to keep things going. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to try to put my words in the mouths of anyone else, but
sure,
it doesn't make sense to me that somehow somebody randomly just decided, hey, you know what? We haven't been doing this for about 500 years or 1,000 years or 1,500 years, but you know what we ought to start reenacting the Last Supper, and we ought to pretend like it's actually Jesus, like he said it was when he said, this is my body and this is my blood. Like, no, I tend to think that if you go back, that's what was going on, and that's why it's still here. And that's why when you go in, and that's one of the things too that I noticed, and I noticed this within the Catholic Church too, but it seems to be even more so if you go back to like the Latin Mass in the Catholic Church, and you go and you keep going even further and further back, the reverence and the weight of that moment when the priest is saying those prayers, when the consecration happens, when the bread and wine are converted into Jesus's body and blood mysteriously, when that's happening, like there is it's not just like scanning the groceries at Walmart. There is this silence and gravity and just like incredible reverence that I think is, I don't know that that we see anything that's like that, honestly, in our everyday lives.